And we are live.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike.
And I'm John. And this is Men Without a Nation.
So this week we are going to be doing something a little different here than what we've been doing before, and that's just focusing on some current events. A lot of stuff's been happening. I think it's always good just to touch base with what's going on once in a while. And so I think one of the things, well, quite a few of the things that are going on, but the most important thing I think is the release of the pending release of the Mueller report, as it pertains to that whole 2-year investigation into whether or not Donald Trump colluded with Russia and all that stuff.
You mean the one where once again they probably didn't find anything even after years of looking?
There's a few.
Sorry. Hello?
Yeah. After 2 years of, yep. Hey, I'm here.
Right on.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be painful, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my internet connection is so terrible right now.
To be totally honest, it's not that much better here, and I have a decent upload usually, but we're getting some serious. It's acting funky. Like it's all right. It'll work out. It will work out.
All right.
It'll work out. I swear.
All right. Yeah, we're just gonna power through this here.
We are. We're gonna motor on through.
Okay. So. You sound like a robot. I can't
Am I roboting? Hang on.
Okay. Oh, you were.
I'm no longer
better
roboting.
now.
Handy. Here, I got to get rid of one of these links. I think I know what
you're no longer related. My robot.
No, you have not been a robot yet.
Okay.
You are not supporting the transhuman
not at
agenda
all?
yet.
Oh, okay.
No, that's been all me. I'm trying to get rid of this one. I think this is the link that's doing it. Here is the one to the tower. The head of NZ. Okay, we're going to kill that one and see what happens. Okay, hang on. Are you there?
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's free.
Yes.
Dude, like the stream itself is having... I can't tell if it's the stream or my download or what. Our monitoring is having issues.
Well, just like close your browser, close that browser window. We're just gonna wing it. Doesn't matter. No one's listening anyways, right?
Let's kill it. Let's kill some things. Here, I'm gonna kill some things. Let's murder them. Oh, that one's dead. Oh, goodbye. Oh, half of old. I don't know what you are. Maybe we should keep you. Let's look real quick. Dun, 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 dun. Half of older Americans have nothing in retirement funds. Jesus H. Christ, this is true and sad. Boom, dead older Americans. Let's see, what else do we got here? I like that one. Let's keep that one. Scientists rise up against statistical significance. Keep that.
Let's keep that one. That one's a good one.
I like that one too. Let's see, I'm just trying to get to a point where this stops tripping balls. I think we might be there. We might be there. Alright, how's it looking? How's the stream itself looking? Do you have a monitor on your side?
Oh no, there's no way that I could do that and do this at the same time. There's absolutely no way.
Well, I will say that so far, the actual stream itself is looking kind of strange, but I'm not going to worry about it. I think we're doing okay. I know that we're still streaming. I do not know how the stream works because my monitoring is totally tripping balls.
Oh, yeah.
But it does still say live, so we're not going to freak out. Let's just rock and roll.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, yeah, the Mueller investigation that's been going on for pretty much the last 2 years finally coming to a head, and I can't say that this hasn't come soon enough.
I'm so glad that thing's getting over, and I'm cracking up because it looks to be like just a total nothing burger.
Well, those are the exact words of a man by the name of Van Jones, I believe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was like what he said, like, on day one. It's like, this is just a big nothing burger. And the thing is, the dude's, Van Jones, he's like an avowed communist. So it's like, he's like hardcore progressive. So
I thought I was a communist once.
Did you?
I did, for a little bit. It was a long time ago.
Well, what happened?
Well, I actually read more about communism.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, dude, come on. How many times are you going to watch that sucker fail?
Oh, that's true. Okay, so anyways, yeah. So we don't actually have the full Mueller report right now, from what I understand.
Well, they're trying to rewrite it, of course.
Oh, I don't know about that, but the attorney general has basically said, there's going to be no more indictments. There's no evidence of collusion. There's no, none of the stuff that has been claimed for the last 2 years. None of it's true.
What cracks me up about the whole thing, dude, is that they, instead of focusing like they have for the past couple of years on Trump's cabinet or Trump's campaign colluding with Russia, instead of that focus, over the past couple of days, you've seen them try to flip the script and say, oh, well, it doesn't show Trump colluding with Russia, but it does show Russian interference in our election, which has probably been there since the 40s.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, they're going to try to salvage that script no matter how they can.
If they wanted to push the whole thing closer, if they wanted it to even be a close election, they shouldn't have done Hillary.
Well,
whole thing's
it was her time. It was her time. What?
No, it's just the best. It was her time.
Well, you can only put up with Bill Clinton for so many years before you're owed. So.
One boomer's worth 2 millennials. It's ass-kicking season, not Game Boy Color.
Okay, nobody understands that reference but you and me. We really need to do a show on that, on those crazy...
Oh, that's going to be a fun one, man.
Those crazy fashions.
That's going to be hilarious.
Anyways, so one of the things I've been kind of peripherally watching this for 2 years, right? I haven't really cared about all of the details because I knew that no matter what was going to happen, no matter what the outcome was going to be, the left, the progressives, they weren't going to get an inch. They were just gonna shift the goalposts and just keep on pushing. This may not be, there might not have been collusion, but Trump's still a bad guy, and we need to get rid of him because it's what's best for the country. And so, what we basically have had here is an attempt at a coup.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have to remember that. And there's I love the Drudge Report because as far as a news aggregation site goes, because they're just the best, honestly. They cover everything, and then when something happens, they'll like do a flashback, like, oh, remember 4 years ago when blood blew, and interesting thing is that, and I forgot about this completely, 24 hours after Hillary lost the election, her and her campaign put out the idea that Trump had colluded with Russia.
Yeah.
So it was like immediately after losing, she tried to stage a coup.
Well, she
and
like what you said earlier. What you said earlier is super telling, because on that side of the fence, on the left side of the aisle, if you will, that really was their feeling. It's her time. I mean, that might as well have been instead. I mean, it might as well have been her campaign slogan. Instead of "I'm with her," it should have just said, "It's her time" or "It's her turn," because no matter what was going to happen, she was going to run, and they thought with 100% certainty that because of Bill Clinton's popularity post-presidency, everybody looks back with fondness on the 90s. Even me. You have a lot of nostalgia for it, because it was a pretty decent,
me too.
Good time in our country. I felt, everybody felt safe. It was pre 9/11, so we hadn't been touched yet. You know what I mean? And the economy was pretty solid. There was money going into education. There was a lot of things going on that were good. I mean, it's post-Reaganomics. Come on now. It was the fallout from Reaganomics.
Well, it was a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of stuff going on there, but it was a good economy. There was no war.
So they banked on those member berries to put another Clinton in the White House.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't work out, man. And then when they were so surprised, they were willing to do damn near anything. I mean, did you see, you saw,
much,
just like I did, the people were like that. There were people like wailing in the streets, and they focused on these.
Yeah,
people.
I was going to say, cue up the scream.
Oh yeah. I got you. We're working on it.
Okay, yeah. It's always good to remind people of the whale heard around the world.
Oh God. I don't want to play the video though. I'm not going to play the video, right? I'm just going to the picture. Oh my God.
What? Of that
screaming person in the yellow jacket?
Looking SJW.
Oh God, there's so many now. Like,
I know.
Good Lord.
But did you
There it is. Boom.
Yep, there it is.
No. Oh God!
When I watched it the first time, I was like, "Suck it." that's all I could think. It was just like, you lose.
Oh.
You lose. You could never win. No defeating the God Emperor.
Somebody told me that I was going to a kebab party.
So, what else was I thinking of? So another thing that happened around the time that the Mueller investigation was kicking off, you saw MSNBC, like their ratings, like for the first time ever, were skyrocketing.
Oh yeah.
Especially like Rachel Maddow, which was really interesting.
Did you hear what she said though, man? This is really reality. You are not having a nightmare. You didn't wake up in a dystopian fantasy.
But there was an interesting piece in the Daily Beast titled "MSNBC's Trump-Russia ratings fizzle, time to pivot to 2020." I just kind of skimmed through it, but it's it's like kind of what do they do now? There's like basically been a ratings collapse, and it's they have.
So I don't know how hip you are on like internet current events, right? Things that are in the like deep internet sphere.
No, I'm not at all.
So
that's why we have you.
There was the thank you. I actually take that as high praise. So there was a big deal in New Zealand over the past week with the New Zealand shooting, right?
Yeah, we'll get into that one next. That was actually really interesting.
But this revolves around that a little bit. So New Zealand totally freaked out, and they were going to put anyone that had a copy of the film, the video, in jail. They were going to put anybody that spread the video in jail. Anybody that posted anything online, jail. Stricter gun laws, stricter than they already have, which they already have insane gun laws. If they were going to go nuts. And so there's this very interesting website on the internet. I won't throw their name out there because I don't want to attract their attention. But the owner of the site's kind of a free speech advocate. And because of his free speech advocacy, he didn't force the takedown of the video off of his site, causing New Zealand, Australia, a couple of other countries to utilize DNS to basically block those websites. So we're talking 4chan, 8chan, Kiwi Farms, you name it. All of that type of website were blocked from those countries. It's really interesting. So what I'm getting at is that these places that were like, and I truly believe that we're headed toward that in the United States. England just got
for sure.
England just got done passing the law this week. This week they passed a law that said that you had to buy a permit to go and watch pornography. I'm not advocating pornography. That's not what I'm saying. Oh
yeah, actually, I saw a little blip about that.
But you have to either upload your ID to a certain government website, or actually go to a store and buy a permit to look at porn and other websites.
Is that for age restriction? Is that the idea?
No, it's really kind of, but anyone has to do this and pay money to the government to do what people do when they watch porno. But what I'm getting at is the control of the internet is becoming tighter and tighter. I think that it's, in my opinion, from my experience, I think it's headed this way. And those sites like 8chan, 4chan, those are sites where /pol is. Those are sites where the quote-unquote meme war of 2016 was organized, and that's where a lot of people think that Trump won the presidency.
Yeah, that's probably yeah. No, they're going to do. That's why I was so. Net neutrality really kind of bummed me out. It was. I don't believe any of that passed, but when that was in the works, it was like.
Oh yeah,
people that I knew. Of course, they're all liberals. They're like, yeah, net neutrality. We gotta do this and dang old Bombadoo, and it was like, don't you realize what you're doing here?
So here's what happened with that, right? So nationally, those laws passed, but we already, because of the Constitution stating that anything that is not in the Constitution being a states' rights issue, and because of Washington State being a hub of the internet, I just kind of doxed us a little bit, but it's a big state.
We haven't been doxed yet, so it's going to happen. But whatever.
What the fuck ever. I'm a Second Amendment rights advocate too.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to exercise our Second Amendment right.
Yes, the good doctor. That's awesome.
Just like the good doctor.
Just like the good doctor. Because our state is a hub of the internet, and because a lot of those laws, you could actually look at them as companies like Charter and Comcast, companies that are not only internet providers but are also cable television providers that are losing money, a shit ton of money, on cable television these days because of the internet. They were going to create a hierarchical tier of payment plans for the internet.
Right. Which is what was going to...
Our state had laws set to go immediately in place right when those laws passed nationwide. So that's why it didn't...
in order to prevent them from doing that.
Right, that's why I didn't hit this at all.
Well, the way my internet's been acting up lately, I kind of wonder, but...
I think you should be... you're going to think I'm crazy. I think you should be a government utility, but that's just me.
Oh, no, I'm not... I think that's perfectly reasonable. At this point, it's how people communicate, and it's in the same. I hate to kind of go off onto these little tangents, but it's like, the United States government established a post office, and the whole purpose of that was to keep the free flow of information.
100%.
And so it's like we don't use mail anymore, but we certainly use email.
Right.
And so the same principle that applied to establishing the post office in order to keep communication open across the country, it's in the same vein as that principle in terms of the internet becoming a public utility.
100%. And the other thing about it is if we did that, if we gave the government just a little bit more control over that as a utility, then they could maybe, this is what I would like to see happen, huge public works project to rebuild our infrastructure, our data infrastructure, because it's shot.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're sending data over 70-year-old copper, and it's a joke.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, we have all the you have all of the well, what is it? You know, your system is the speed of your system is limited to the slowest part.
Oh yeah, it's called a bottleneck
in networking. So it's like it doesn't matter if your neighborhood has FiOS if you're still running coax.
There you go. Boom. There it is. Yeah.
See, I'm not even an IT guy, and I understand this concept.
You're there, dude.
So, anyways, man, Mueller investigation, internet, all this stuff. Okay.
Mueller.
So, but basically, you know, so now MSNBC, their ratings are tanking, and so yet to be seen what's going to happen there. But, you know, essentially, as MSNBC's ratings were tanking, Trump's approval was rising. And he's at apparently around 50% approval rating right now. So that's good. So, I mean, he's only come out ahead in this whole ordeal because he's been saying for 2 years, this is fake news, it's all a hoax. And one more thing I will point out, you know, I point out that Hillary Clinton was kind of the one who kick-started this whole thing. Progressives and liberals, they always project. And so, you know, we're finding out, well, and we knew even 2 years ago, Hillary Clinton was the one who was guilty of colluding with Russia.
Yeah.
And she was the one who was trying to rig the election. You know, she's the one who had the foreign money. You know, she's the one who had, she was the one who colluded with Russia and tried to rig the election. But then she tried to hit it on Donald Trump. And, you know, we're going to see there's actually a bunch of, one thing that's yet to be seen is that there's a bunch of sealed indictments that related to the Mueller investigation.
Yeah.
And we'll see who those are for. But there's been, excuse me, there's been more talk about going after the Clintons because of the activities of the Clinton Foundation and stuff like that.
Never happened.
And who knows if it's going to happen or not. I'm not really too hopeful about that. But, you know, at the very least, we're going to see, the Mueller investigation is one of those things where it's because there was nothing there against Trump, it acts to expose the motives, the true motives of Trump's opposition. And one thing I actually didn't find out until recently, I think this week or last week, was that Mueller, he's a Republican appointee. And so this was actually, you know, this was a bipartisan effort to unseat Trump, and it failed. So,
well,
you know,
when
this
you
isn't
have such a strong establishment in a two-party system that's worked hand in hand for, I don't know, probably since like Ike, maybe FDR. Well, the two sides are still connected to the same coin, man.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, you say it's a two-party system. It's a two-party system in the way that, you know, professional wrestling is an actual wrestling match.
There you go. Exactly. You like it's,
you know, They all go have beers after they're done.
We really got a lot of work done today, boys.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's been that way forever. I mean,
of course it has. I shouldn't say forever, but it's. I'm reading an interesting book, and I think I mentioned, in our first stream, but I'll mention it again. I read the book Why Liberalism Failed, and I highly recommend that book to anybody. And I picked up another book recently written by John Red Eagle and Vox Day, and this is a book called Conservative, and it's basically about how I think it's a good companion to Why Liberalism Failed, because it, at least insofar as I've gotten, I'm only about to the third chapter. It's outlining basically how conservatives have just let everybody down, and how they've actually, because of the way that they've operated, they've helped the left to ruin the country.
Well, what you have really aren't conservatives. What you have is kind of a bunch of neocon. Like all those neocons, all those guys, Marco Rubio, guys like that, had their feelings so badly hurt in the last election that they would do anything right now over the past couple years to try to bring the sitting president down, because he came out and he said what he wanted to say and people loved him for it. They're scared of people like that because they've never said what they wanted to say in their professional career. You know what I mean? It's like since they've hit adulthood, everything that they've said the whole time has been scripted and carefully crafted to create an image around themselves that is electable.
Yeah.
And then here comes
which turns out to be
straight up kind of, rough
and you know what?
Douche to people.
That's actually a good segue into the next article that I wanted to share in relation to this.
Sure.
Written by Karl Rove in the Wall Street Journal. Karl Rove of all people, he's, if there's a neocon alive, it's Karl Rove.
Right.
And so, the title of the article is, and I'm, for some reason, the Wall Street Journal hates me on my computer and it won't let me read the article. I could read it at work, but anyways, the title of the article tells you everything you know. It says, "Move on from Robert Mueller, Mr. President. Obsessing over the investigation's origins isn't the way to win over swing voters."
Okay.
And so that's everything that you honestly need to know about the article. And it's like, I was able to read some of the comments earlier today, and it's just like, oh, you mean the swing voters that the Republicans haven't ever been able to win over? And stuff like that. It's just like, that just goes to show, Karl Rove, he's, as far as I'm concerned, he's an enemy. He's a political enemy, because, he might have been the so-called architect behind the George W. Bush presidential victory, but
man,
it's a rigged game, like we just said earlier.
Yeah.
So it's not too impressive, honestly.
Like, I'm not a huge. I like Bush better than I like Obama, but I'm still not a huge Bush guy.
I've never been a huge Bush guy myself.
They used to have a cartoon on called Little Bush that pretty well voiced my opinion of the whole thing.
I watched that. I thought that was really, really disrespectful. Fucking chickens, brains, like that. I
thought that was amusing.
Like breaking a chicken neck and just like sucking it dry or something like that. It was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, it was great. No, okay, there was one scene in the cartoon that was hilarious, and it was when they beat up Al Gore. That was funny.
I believe that. Yeah.
They gave him a swirly in the bathroom. And it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on television. But no, seriously, like, that whole deal.
That cartoon, it came out, for starters, it was never all that popular. But it was just like, oh my gosh, people have got to be kidding me. And, like, some of my friends were, like, really excited about it. Because they're like, hardcore leftists, even though they didn't know a damn thing about the world. But I mean, this was like in the middle of like, you know, every night the Colbert Report, like, you know, he's just trashing Bush, and like everybody's just trashing Bush. And it's just like, and I think even Jon Stewart was still on the air at the time, the Daily Show. And it was just like, okay, so you'd watch the Daily, so there'd be Comedy Central, right? You'd watch the Daily Show, and then you'd watch the Colbert Report, and then Little Bush would come on, and it'd be like, okay, I've had enough Bush bashing for one day.
The only thing that even was, you know what, that whole channel, man, like, since we were teenagers, has been that way, though. They're super far left.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, there's no getting around it, but I guess my point is that it was just completely over the top, and that was actually when the Democrats lost a lot of credibility. Because a lot of people saw through the nonsense.
That was when they started nitpicking every single little tiny thing that they could. And to be honest, that was like the beginning of the problem that we have now, where everybody's just so damn sensitive about every single thing that you can't move in the world.
Yeah.
You know, you can't even... You have to live in constant fear of even gaining a career because you might say something off-color. So you bite your tongue all day, and you just move carefully and quietly through the world trying to survive, and just waiting for someone to catch you do something even moderately silly.
Yeah.
And that started started back then. That started with the Bush presidency.
Mm-hmm.
I read some really interesting stuff today. And I kind of hate where the articles came from. But it was on, I think it was on Vice. And they were talking about the Appalachian Mountains, and the people there how their economy's failing, and the opioid crisis, how it's kind of the cradle thereof, stuff like that, overdose deaths and things. But what I got out of it was that whole part of the country blames Obama for the death of coal. They're not completely wrong. All of what they said were environmental sanctions were really economic sanctions against our country, hurt that business so badly.
Oh, sure.
All of those people through that part of the country, I don't think they're ever going to vote for a Democrat again.
No, they won't. They won't. If they ever did, they won't.
Right. And so many there are so many. The companies that people made their lives around are dying or dead because of 8 years of economic sanctions against their only exportable industry. It's just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the articles wanted to talk about, you know, Lord have mercy, it's all the pills. And yeah, that's happening. I think that's happening. I've seen it, you know. But what I took from it, like on kind of between the lines, was, man, what a whole part of the country that was just destroyed by 8 years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and honestly, you know, that brings to mind something, and it kind of ties into the broader theme of this channel, is the idea of nationalism and kind of looking after your own. Every time I hear about coal country, I'm reminded of a story and I don't even know which. This has been years ago. I just remember the part that stuck out to me was that there was a young man from like West Virginia or something like that. He went to college to get an engineering degree so that he could come back home and bring update the coal industry to keep it alive. And it's just like, and he came up with, and he studied, like clean coal technology and stuff like that, which is actually a real thing. And so it's, yeah. But and that's honestly the sort of attitude that people need to have going forward if we're gonna, for the aftermath of what's coming, honestly. Because the Republicans and the Democrats, they've hollowed out a lot of rural America, and the whole effort is to push people into the cities. And that's what Obama's objective was. If there's no jobs out in the sticks, then you gotta go to your parents don't leave because they have a house, but you go off to college and never come back.
The thing that I don't understand about that, and I see that. I see it all the time. You see it. I see it places. I see it where I'm from. I see it where we're from.
Yeah.
I just don't understand the end goal.
Well, what do you mean?
What was the goal?
The goal of
pushing people into the cities and away from the country.
Well, that's where you can control people. If you're out in the country, you have freedom. You have real freedom because you have a car. You have your own vehicle. You can go and you can come and go when you please. You have a patch of dirt. You can grow your own food. You have. It's a slower pace of life. You can actually stop and you can sit and you can think and you can. You can build those deep relationships that are necessary for a community. In the city, hardly any of that's possible. It takes a very special sort of, modern autist to survive and to thrive in a city.
I've never lived in one.
I have. It's a whole other thing. It's just everything's expensive. You don't know your neighbors. It takes you forever to go anywhere, and so you don't have hardly any free time unless you're going to sell out to having working 60 hours a week so you can make more money. And so it's just and your movement's controlled because you got to take a bus because driving a car is unaffordable because of cost of parking, plus the buses get there faster. Stuff like that. It's just, it's stuff that you don't even think about. Unless you're
mind-numbing,
living in it. Well, a little bit, yeah. And so, cities, cities are great and everything, but the cities of today, they're crazy. They're insane. You can't.
It makes me think about. It makes me think about, the death of the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
If you look at pre-1980s America. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're looking at let's say pre-1986. All right. So you have neighborhoods where people know each other, hang out, have barbecues, go to people's houses and watch football. There's neighborhood block watches. There's stupid CB radio clubs. There's all this stuff centering around neighborhoods. 4th of July, that movie The Sandlot, where they have the 4th of July and all those kids go and they have sparklers and they run around, they have hot dogs at a neighborhood barbecue, right? And then they had Stranger Danger and Satanic Panic, right?
Right.
And everybody that wasn't in your house wasn't your friend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want your kid out walking on the street because who's going to grab him? And that's a real thing. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying that it was useful.
Right.
Because now you don't know anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived on the same block, basically a block, for years and years and years. And only in the past year have I really met any of my neighbors,
Yeah.
And not even more than a passing, my name is,
Mm-hmm.
That, you just wouldn't have seen that 25 years ago. You'd know everybody, but everybody's so scared of each other now.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, it takes. Yeah, I mean we're honestly so things are so screwed on so many levels, and most of it is just the disintegration of community. Which is kind of like the title of our last few streams. Civilizational disintegration.
Yeah, it's a degradation.
Yeah.
Like it's a de-evolution.
Mm-hmm.
You know
But there's
it's a constant pecking at what created Western civilization. It's a non-stop drive.
Or not even that, but just what creates community. So I mean, there's a reason. There's a big reason that the left hates the suburbs.
There's white people there? I'm joking.
Well, other than that obvious fact. No, but it's just because it's not the city. You can't control people in the suburbs. They're not as free as in the country, but you still can't control people in the suburbs.
They make fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
They made.
I'm no fan of the suburbs, by the way. I think they're terrible because that's consumer. That's where consumers go to die.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the people that eat spam, but then spend $25,000 on their Christmas lights?
Yes. Yes, I used to put those people's Christmas lights. Well, as it should.
You can watch it on the Home and Garden channel, and you see people that their whole house. And I'm not saying my house doesn't have a knick-knack in it. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
What I'm saying is you see people where there are hundreds of shelves of Santa knickknacks and just thousands and thousands of twinkle lights on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. It's just such a
craziness.
waste.
But yeah, man, how did we even get to here? That's
Robert freaking Mueller.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I think that's a good. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back.
I'm down.
And we did about a 40-minute segment, so we'll come back for another long segment, and then we're gonna call it a night because both of us are kind of tired.
Yeah, I'm kind of rambly. Sorry about that, everybody.
Well, anyone who's listening, that's what they came here for.
Oh wow.
So the next segment we're gonna talk a little bit about a few different things, like racial purity, LGBT hoaxes, and child napping. So yeah.
So stay tuned for Inception. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Right on.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
All right. And we're back.
All right, everybody. So this segment, we are. Let's see here. I'm trying to come up with a clever acronym for this. The LJSC instead of LGBT. LJSC. Lesbians, Jews, scientists, and child nappers.
Right.
I don't know. So let's just get this out of the way. And if our stream goes down, it's because they took it down. So this next article is from forward.com, and it's an opinion piece. It says Israeli rabbis are using DNA testing to police civil rights. This shouldn't shock you. Apparently, in Israel, a Jewish person a non-Jew can't marry a Jew in Israel. There's no civil marriage. There's no sort of civil marriage there. Non-Jews can marry non-Jews, and Jews can marry Jews, but you can't have a mixing, so to speak. If you go out of the country and get married and you come in there and then you come back, your marriage is recognized. But let's see here. This article is actually coming down against the idea of DNA testing to determine, like Jewishness or what have you. For the purposes of upholding that sort of civil ordinance, and they're kind of upset about this. And you can read the article yourself over on forward.com. But
why shouldn't they be allowed to protect their bloodlines?
That's kind of what I'm saying. The whole purpose of Israel, the state of Israel, is to preserve the Jewish nation, which is the bloodline. Jews have been kicked out of every single country they've ever been in the history of, Jews. And, it's an important cultural thing for them to maintain that's really important to them to maintain their Jewishness. I get the sense that the person writing this article is someone who thinks that, blood is sort of immaterial, so to speak. And so...
Well, I mean, okay, so statistically...
But it's not.
Statistically, Jewish people have a higher IQ than other people, correct?
I think so. I think that's kind of... That's in question.
From what I've read and seen. And also, as...
They certainly can argue like they do.
Well, and has been stated already, like, they get chased around and persecuted constantly. When was it, 1948 that we created Israel? Sort of yanked down some
not 48, I thought it was in the 60s.
Maybe. I know it's post-World War II. I know there was plans for it. Let's put it that way.
Let's see here. Nation of Israel. Okay. 1948.
Ah, see.
Yeah, you were close.
So 48, they create the Nation of Israel. They give it to these people. They have a big war with all the people around them that they yank the country away from.
The territory away from. Yeah.
Right. Why can't a people be allowed to maintain themselves, their
peopleness?
Right.
Yeah.
But you're right. This article comes down. I'm completely surprised. One that.
Well, I'm not, but that's okay.
What do you mean that you're not surprised that this?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm guessing that the woman who wrote this article, her name is Batya Ungar Sargon. She's either. I'm guessing she's Jewish, because Forward is a it's a Jewish sort of publication.
It's a news site, kind of.
The idea of the self-hating Jew is nothing new. So, it has to do with survivor's guilt and stuff like that because of the Holocaust. But
no, that makes sense.
Anyways,
yeah, that does make complete sense. Why can't any people be allowed to do this?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true.
The people that there are people in African American culture that believe that they should maintain their purity. There are people in Native American culture definitely that believe this.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't blame them because historically speaking, whenever a people's bloodline is compromised, then the people ceases to exist.
That's true.
Which is just broadly speaking what's happened in America. But I think this article is really, the more I think about it, the more interesting it is. It kind of shows the two sides, sort of with the bloodline purity, and then there are those who are like the opposite, who want to see it destroyed, and not just for Jews, but for everybody.
People that want everyone to just sort of mix together into a big one big thing.
Yeah. What is it? It's from the it's a clip from the Incredibles or whatever. Have you seen that movie, John?
Oh yeah, the cartoon.
Yeah. The movie The Incredibles.
Yeah, of course.
So there's the antagonist, who's like, he doesn't have, like, okay, so there's people called supers, and they have, like, superpowers, right? And there's this one guy.
Syndrome.
There's one guy who doesn't...
Syndrome.
Yeah. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he has gadgets. And he wants to... he wants to destroy all the super powerful people because, like, if nobody's special, then everybody is.
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. It's nearly a dead quote.
And so,
pretty close.
That's kind of this the thing about bloodlines and about, nation and heritage. It's something that is unique to you and makes you special. Doesn't matter who you are. But unfortunately, in America, especially, and this is something for those of you interested at all, pick up the book Conservative. It's written by two Native Americans, for crying out loud, who are basically talking about nationalism. It's excellent. But it's basically what's happened in America. There's been this idea of just mix everybody together in a pot.
Yes, it's the myth of the melting pot is kind of what you're getting at, I think.
Well, essentially, which was actually invented by Jews. That idea, it was invented by Jews, and as well as the idea that America is the place for every poor sullen wretch to come and become part of something better. That was invented by Jews as well.
What's really interesting is like
a Jew.
The Jewish people understand much better than a lot of other ethnicities, I suppose you could go with, the concept of hereditary value.
Mm-hmm.
So they work as a group toward a future, and they know that what happens to them and what goes with their generation should serve to better the next generation.
Exactly,
and
which is why,
Well,
which is why there's nearly every single person in a position of power in America is Jewish, especially in media, and finance.
What's really crazy about that is that an African American man, actually a part Dominican Republican man, a rapper named Jay-Z, wrote a song, and there were just a few lines in it that talked about that. That talk about hereditary wealth and about how Jewish people do it better, and he was lambasted. just
torn
apart over it, where they told him that they said that he was an anti-Semite and that what he said was wrong, and he was pushing forward this stereotype, when, to be honest, it's sort of a positive stereotype.
Yeah, it definitely is. But
you have to watch the video when you listen to the song to understand that he was saying that they're saving their money toward a future, and he wishes his people would do that. So all of his people were like, "Screw you! You say you're a drug dealer. You're a hypocrite. We don't care." Mm-hmm. And then all the other people in media were like, "What are you doing? Like, you anti-Semite?"
Well, see, the thing is that even if you paint that in a positive light, it kind of blows the lid off of the game, so to speak. It breaks the fourth wall.
Well, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do that. I'm saying everyone else should too.
Oh no, absolutely. That's the whole point. But see, so here's the thing. There's like, and I know this is going to sound weird, and after I say my piece and John says his piece, we'll move on to the next story. But this is just so super interesting. You know, that article that shows kind of both the sides of sort of both the sides of sort of the Jewish conflict or what have you. Mm. Those who want to see everything. The people. What I'm trying to say is that the people in charge are playing both sides of it at the same time. They're saying purity for us and impurity for you. And because they know the power, they know the leverage it gives them. I would posit, you know, I'm not, you know, there's no one's ever come out and said that, but it's just kind of obvious. Is that if you're the only group that's homogenous in a country full of people without any sort of bloodline foundation, you have an advantage.
Yeah,
you have a significant advantage. And we'll in a future stream, probably the next in the series of sort of the civilizational disintegration, which will come after my second child is born, which could be any minute now. We'll talk about diversity, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, just to kind of keep things in the frame of nationalism, and the importance therein, and just sort of why by stepping away from nationalism, our country's kind of gone down the tubes. Anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Do you have anything to add, John?
Globalism's evil.
All right. So, excuse me. Next, sort of in the wake of this happened. Let's see here. This story is dated end of February. But when was the Jussie Smollett thing? When did that happen?
Oh, it was just a couple weeks ago.
No, I mean like when. What was the date?
Oh,
I mean, a couple weeks ago, was it?
Do you mean the most recent thing where they kind of let him off?
No, I mean like when he came to the police. When did he stage it?
Oh, hang on.
I want to see because this story that I want to bring up, it's a story from like 2 years ago.
March 26, 2019, dropped all charges.
Look up like Jussie Smollett timeline.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of looking for. I think the stream is way behind us.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I'm not too sure, but maybe.
All right, timeline of what?
Yeah, there it is.
Good old NPR. January 22nd.
I'm on a strange website called The Cut. As in,
The Cut.
This is The Cut. In late January, so yeah, it's not great, but
okay. But anyway, so roughly around the same time, while that stuff was still going on, from another hate hoax, LGBT activist accused of burning down own home.
Wow.
And there was a transgender man, which means biological woman who wants to be a man. Woman who wants a penis. She, and yes, I will agitate some hate here. She burned down her house in 2017. Let's see here. She lived lives in a conservative town of Jackson, Michigan. She helped open the city's first gay community center and organize the first gay festival. And
it was even in the post.
So she did a lot of stuff. And was named Citizen of the Year even, for all of the work on gay rights and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. This person worked in a church where the town's gay pride center is located, and for anybody who listened to a few episodes ago, you have to think about that. So they said when they asked for a motive, this person was disappointed that the Pride Parade didn't receive more attention or protests. And so this person burnt down their own house because the parade was widely accepted in the community and not protested.
But nobody cares, man.
Well, yeah, I know, but the whole point is this person is so unhinged. They burnt down their own house and killed 5 of their pets because nobody protested their event that they were pushing, that they were in support of.
Man, that's sick. That just makes me.
It is sick, and it shows you the
depravity,
the bottom of the pit in terms of the upside down. When you live in the upside down, like that person obviously does, no protests is something to burn your house down over, instead of something to be celebrated.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That person got everything they wanted.
Right. Like nobody went out there and hated them. Nobody went out there and threw things. Nobody went out there and put up signs. No one. It was acceptance. It was what these people have looked for how many years. They've only asked for.
Mm-hmm.
They say that they've only asked for acceptance. I differ in opinion on that topic, but they say that they only ask for acceptance, and they get there. They gain acceptance. No one comes to protest. They gain acceptance. The MAGA hat wearing hordes of Nazis stay home, right? They don't exist. Not really. Not the way they're portrayed. The MAGA hat wearing Nazis, the hordes of them, in their polo shirts, stay home, and so they go burn their house down.
With the tiki torches? Did you mention tiki torches?
Oh, well, I mean, I like them, but just to keep the mosquitoes away.
Oh, yeah. That's the only good thing about them.
Well, okay, if I can make fun
of
you're
starting to robot out.
Oh, okay, hang on. How is it now? Maggle?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it still bad?
I think it's on my end. I think I'm hearing you as a robot because... Oh, no, it's good now.
Okay, good. I think it was just that site was bad.
Yeah,
Rewrite your site post.
How do people do this for a living with internet connections?
They turn on super chats and they beg for shekels. Then they try to find.
I understand that's how you make a living, but how do they even stream without interruption, without any kind of glitches? I mean, what are they paying for their connection?
Well, some of the really big ones actually do pay for static IP addresses or a dedicated 120 meg circuit. There are some streamers that do that.
We should do that.
It's expensive. And also, the other thing about it is that the people that listen to them, the pay pigs, pay for it, not the people themselves.
Well, that's true. Speaking of people paying for this, do we have any subscribers yet?
We're subscribed to ourselves.
Oh, okay. So no one else. Okay, that's okay. We'll keep doing this until we get one subscriber, and then we'll quit. Just to cut off our nose to spite our face.
Change our name.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, we'll change our brand as soon as we get one subscriber, because that's
we'll pull a Medicare the second we have an audience.
Yep. We don't like the attention. The only reason that we're not shut down right now is because no one's watching.
I don't think the what we say is that freaking controversial, man. We just say that the United States needs to get back to a feeling of self, that it's not wrong for people to love their own people, and
it's okay to be white, in other words?
Yeah, it's okay to be
okay.
Dude. I don't know if I'm willing to test the theory physically.
Fair enough. Well, in your neighborhood, it might get you
shot.
Do you want a necktie or something like that? I don't know.
Odelay.
Anyways, okay. So, stepping away from the nonsense that is the upside down that is the LGBT community, which we'll talk about that more in another stream. Where we'll talk about everything at some point. I think that something that's really interesting is this article in Nature. It's called "Scientists Rise Up Against Statistical Significance."
Oh, Jesus.
There's more than 800 signatures to call for an end to hyped claims and the dismissal of possibly crucial effects. A lot of this is really some of this is technical, and of statistical significance. It's one of those things that's kind of been, I guess you wouldn't call it a gold standard, but like maybe a silver standard in terms of statistical analysis, in terms of like science, because the whole idea of statistical significance is that you can take down raw data and you can notice small variations, but until you put it in proper context, you don't know if any one variable is actually important, and that's where statistical significance comes in play. It's a way to measure the importance of any one measure that you're taking. Like as for instance, like if you do like a survey of voters or something like that, and you're like, okay, so we found in our survey that of the people surveyed that were between the ages of 18 and 30, 80% are going to vote for Democrat. Now, that could just be an outlier in and of itself, or you can test it to see if it's statistically significant by running it through, some sort of an algorithm. And then when you compare, then they have sort of a scale that a number scale that's sort of like a ratio that determines whether or not something is, the closer to 1 or what have you. Then you have something that's significant. Well, the problem is you can't just rely on statistical significance alone, because you can monkey with the numbers to make something statistically significant.
Yeah, and that's, what do they call that? That's oh god. Well, when you see something in the numbers that agrees with what you're thinking, confirmation bias.
Yeah. Well, and it's not even necessarily confirmation bias. It could just you could find something, because statistical significance is determined by a mathematical equation. It's not like it's reality coming and saying, "Hey, this is what's real." It's like the result of a mathematical equation. And so, if parts of the equation are not correct, you're going to get a wrong. You're going to get a wrong conclusion.
Right.
And statistical significance as like the standard for determining if something is valid or not is a bit of an issue. Although it's kind of like the idea of that correlation does not equal causation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows that, but everyone also knows that without correlation there is no causation. And so, if you think of like statistical significance in the same vein as correlation, even though they're completely different measurements, right? But if you think of them sort of in the same vein as each other, that one it's not necessarily an indicator. It's not the indicator of truth. It's an indicator of truth.
Okay.
And so basically, what this article is saying essentially is that, look, statistical significance shouldn't be relying on this too heavily, and frankly, we should stop using it as a measure. Doesn't mean that you get rid of statistical significance, but it's like you can't use that as like the end all be all measure of your statistical analysis. Because depending on the variables present, you can end up with something that's statistically significant, but in reality insignificant, or vice versa. Something in reality that's significant, but it's statistically insignificant. So, anyways, but the fact that scientists are that they're actually thinking about this. It's really interesting, and I found this article. I read Vox Day's blog, and he likes to make the point that scientists use statistics, but most scientists don't even understand statistics, and which is just completely, it's true based on that statement is true based on the things that people that go into science learn in school. It's they don't have much statistics training, but they rely on statistics to do science, so to speak. And so the fact that they're voting to move away from something as a measure that most of them don't even understand, it's probably a good idea.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you get away from empirical data, which is actual provable data, you get away from something you can actually physically prove and start relying on numbers,
right?
Then you quickly turn to horseshit, if you will.
Well, pretty much.
Although, upon glancing through the article, their reasoning behind getting rid of it is also stupid. Like, we want to get rid of this, and we're not alone. We said, hey, shouldn't we get rid of this? And 250 people said, yeah, in the first 24 hours. Like, well, okay.
Well, yeah, that could be an indication that people don't really know what they're doing either. So, bottom line is, science is a bunch of nonsense.
Well, there's there's scientific things
that was hyperbolic, Johnny boy.
Oh, forgive me, I don't understand hyperbole.
Oh, okay. Yes, you do. That's why you said forgive me. Anyway. But there's a lot of people think that the world runs on science. The world does not run on science. I can tell you that right now. I work in an industry, and I don't mind. I actually don't mind saying what it is. I work in the water treatment industry, like the drinking water filtration.
Yes.
While there are scientific principles that underpin what we do, not a lot of what we do is science. We don't use science to guide us in making drinking water. We use what we can observe as working we use, we use trends, and we use a lot of what we do is actually guess and test, believe it or not. And so it's like something that people take for granted, which is drinking water out the tap. While there is some science behind it, science isn't what made it, and science isn't what drives it. But it works. And I think that the modern obsession with science, people always ask, whenever people make a claim about something working, they're like, well, what's the science behind it? And the people that usually ask that actually have no idea what real science is, and no idea that if you actually applied science to the question, you'd come up with I'll just leave that at that. Anything to add, John?
What's really funny about that, I also work in an industry that's supposed to be based on science. Mike gave away his career, so I will as well. I'm a network engineer. And so you learn in network engineering, you go and you take these certs that teach you how, things are supposed to act when you put in certain commands. And then you go and become you get an actual job, like in the real world, and you figure out how none of that actually works. And you put in commands and pray, and it's all really black magic half the time. So all of the things that people think are designed to work precisely are more along the lines of, hey, I'm gonna change the inputs, the data in this routing table, and we're gonna see what happens to all of the upstreams after I do that. And then when it all goes into failure, you're like, oh well, that didn't work well. Let's change it back.
There's a good book, and I have yet to read it, but I hear it's a good book. I believe it's called The History of Scientific... Thomas Kuhn, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. This is a book I intend to buy and to read, but from what I understand, and Thomas Kuhn's a physicist, so he's not just someone pontificating out of his bum. But from what I understand, from what I've heard people discuss about the book, is that the book basically talks about how science is a sort of a post hoc explanation. There's very little that science has actually given us in terms of advancement. And it's mostly just people just messing around and seeing what works.
It reminds me of a Reddit meme, to be plebit here. Reminds me of a Reddit meme, science! You don't know science! You're not a scientist!
Plebit tier memes. They're excellent. So, well, we're already we're about an hour and a half in. I think that we'll skip the last story about the, look it up, it's, azcentral.com, AZ as in Arizona. The title is, "A couple decided not to take their feverish child to the hospital. Hours later, police kicked down their door." This just happened a few days ago in Arizona. Some folks basically had their door kicked in at 1 a.m. and had their children removed from their custody because they didn't follow their doctor's advice to go to the emergency room, even though they were convinced their child was perfectly fine. And so the police called social services, and then social services obtained, even after they had visited the house, talked to the parents, talked to the neighbors, they went and got a warrant to remove the children from the house, and did so at 1 a.m. This,
So
I
let's
mean, this happened.
traumatize some kids because the kid had a fever. How high was the fever?
The kid had a fever of like 100 degrees, 100 or something like that. And so the mom took her to, well, the mom took her to the doctor, and because the child was vaccinated, the doctor thought, well, was feeling better. The fever wasn't there anymore. And so mom called the doctor and was like, yeah, fever broke. I don't think we need to go to the emergency room. And then the doctor was like, oh yeah, you should still go. And the mom was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then never went.
The crazy thing about that is, well, okay, check it out. If they have jobs, and I'm supposing they do, and their jobs have insurance, a lot of the new rules lately in insurance state that if you go to the emergency room and they don't keep you, they don't admit you, you're footing a ton of the bill.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so it's like, but, you know, and for anyone listening or paying attention to this stream, go back and go read the article and just...
It reminds me of a crazy story out of Oregon, man, and I don't mean to make this longer, but just it'd probably take 3 minutes.
No, that's fine.
So, in Oregon, there was a couple that both were measurably low IQ'd.
Oh, yes. I remember this one.
Measurably low IQ'd, and they had a kid, and the crazy thing was they made this kid their world, and they were actually doing a really good job of raising this child. Because they would write everything down and force themselves to do things certain ways, and not forget. You know what I mean? Like, even though they were measurably not intelligent people.
Yeah.
The state came in because of their IQ scores and took the kid away.
Yeah. Well, if I believe the child was placed with a parent of a grandparent, I believe.
Still crazy.
And I think there's more to it. There's more to that story. I believe that there was some question of whether or not they were, adequately taking care of the children. And I don't have the story in front of me, but I seem to remember something like that while they were trying to do a good job, they weren't able to do a good job. And social services was working with them like from day one. And it wasn't just like they just swooped into the kids away. It was, well, you kind of have a demonstrated record of not being able to take care of these kids by yourself. And so we're going to give custody to one of your parents. But anyways, it is kind of in the same vein. It's just like, how much power do we want to give the government over us?
That's where I'm going. That's exactly.
And I knew you were going there, but it's just like
that's exactly where I'm at with the whole thing.
So in this story, and I'm just going to mention this, and it ties into the previous stream that we did, kind of about gender and the roles of men and women and stuff like that. Okay, the doctor was a woman, the social worker was a woman, the judge who granted the warrant was a woman, who signed the warrant was a woman. Okay, the only woman there were 2 women in this situation who were acting appropriately, and that was the mother of the child and the next door neighbor, who vouched for the family. It's just like, these other women, they were like, oh, gotta protect the baby, and then they got the men with guns to come in and kick in a door in the middle of the night. And the only man in this story was the child's father, who basically talked to the police and said, our child is fine. We're not taking them to the emergency room. Don't bother us. And so it's like, the moral of the story is, you put women in charge, and suddenly you get, violations of the Nuremberg Code.
Right.
I used to work in the medical field. One of the things that they drill into you is people have the right to refuse medical care. Period.
Yeah, you see it all the time. All they do is you sign a waiver for the hospitals. You sign a waiver for the hospitals, like the law, so that they're not at all. What's the word I'm looking for? Liable.
Right.
You sign a paper that makes a hospital not liable, and you can walk out of there whether your kidneys are failing or your arm's hanging off.
Well, exactly. And so it's like, okay, and I understand that it's a little bit different when children are involved, but not really. I mean, it's like...
Well, if you were going to kick in the door of these people, right, then why haven't you kicked in the door of every Christian Scientist family?
Exactly. Exactly.
Why haven't you kicked in the door of every Jehovah's Witness family?
Mm-hmm.
These are all people that refuse medical care due to their religious doctrine.
Exactly.
They can't have life-saving... The Amish can't have... They are not allowed, by their religious doctrine, to have things that would save their life, like a blood transfusion. And why aren't their doors getting kicked in?
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be something completely different. You know, this is... and I haven't... God... So, just so everyone's clear, I'm not a militant anti-vaxxer, but I'm an anti-vaxxer. And the reason is because I've actually looked into it, and it's a horrifying issue. And the way for me to become not an anti-vaxxer would be for very specific things to be done. We can do this. We can do a whole episode on this if we want to. But part of me thinks that because they didn't vaccinate their child, that they were treated differently.
I actually agree with that.
And it's just like, well, God, we got to get because anybody who doesn't vaccinate must obviously be crazy, must obviously be willing to compromise their child's health.
Well, the real serious problem, there's only one real serious problem that, and I haven't read as much as you have on the subject, but the real problem that it all starts all the way back at the beginning, right? So, like, we gave ourselves HPV through the first polio vaccine.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The HPV came from growing the polio vaccine on monkey kidney. At least that's the story, right? Do I know that people just do? It's controversial, but
sure.
Prior to that vaccine, HPV wasn't really a thing, right? Yeah,
that makes sense. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me in any way, shape, or form.
Science.
Exactly. Well, and getting back to these things. Everyone thinks that vaccines are settled science. There's no settled science about them at all. There's actually been very little science done.
Well, science itself, there is no such thing as settled science.
Well, exactly, but I'm just using the
no, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
using the common vernacular here.
The term of the day, right?
Yeah.
No, absolutely, I completely agree with you. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, what do we believe in now that we completely 100% knew wasn't true scientifically 500 years ago or 200 years
absolutely.
ago.
Yeah, no, I follow you. Yeah, Science is an ever changing body of knowledge, which means it's horribly unreliable.
I agree with that. Even though for a long period of my life, a long-term period of my life, I was one of those guys that was like, well, science and math.
Like, show me the science. Yeah.
Yeah, I was that guy.
So was
big time. And now I'm like, well, you know what? All that shit is kind of. It's all. I'm sorry, I cursed like 3 times in this stream.
Just curse away, buddy.
It's horse shit.
Damn ass hell. There we go.
Okay, Cartman. Dude, that story about the
are you Kyle's mom because you're acting like a big old bitch? Anyways, my child won't listen to this until she's 16. So. I'll make sure of that.
Holy shit.
Anyways, so I think that we've we've talked more about that one than I was hoping to. But the last thing that I wanted to leave you here with, or leave everyone here with, and did you see this one? It's about the fig tree in Los Angeles.
No.
Did I share you that one? So, LATimes.com, March 9th. After more than 140 years, a massive fig tree gracing the plaza where Los Angeles was founded collapses. And so, you might think, well, what's the big deal about a fig tree, right? Well, I'm a Christian. I read my Bible. Fig trees are they're kind of an interesting sort of symbol in the Bible. The fig tree in the Garden of Eden, that was the tree that Adam and Eve used the leaves to cover their nakedness, and so it's the fig leaf is what it covers the crotch of Michelangelo's David.
Yeah.
The fig tree is used. Jesus himself uses the fig tree as an analogy of, he used it in a parable, saying, this fig tree, it hasn't produced fruit for 3 years. Cut it down and burn it. And then the gardener says, well, give me 1 more year, I'll fertilize it. And if it doesn't produce any fruit, then I'll cut it down. Jesus also cursed a fig tree. Right before leading up to before he died, he cursed a fig tree because it didn't have any fruit on it, and it withered and died. And so I think this is highly and horribly symbolic that a fig tree planted where Los Angeles was founded, Los Angeles, modern-day Sodom, has completely collapsed.
Symbology behind that, man.
Yeah. And it was, let's see here, the fig tree was 144 years old.